Welcome. Hey, everyone. It's Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. This is Tuesday, September 3rd, and we are live, just like we always are, at the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas. And we're live on the radio, we're live on social media, and we are starting. We did last night. It was being Labor Day. We took a small little break, but we're starting our second year right here on the radio. So, and we've got some new listeners. We've got our Littlefield line social media page it's up and running now. We've got our people from Littlefield that are listening to us, and so I wanted to take tonight and just kind of reset the show, reset everybody, let you know kind of what we're doing on this show, why we're doing this show, and give you a little bit of history about me, about chiropractic, about what we're trying to do with your health, and just kind of see if we can make last year's first show better. So this is like the kickoff to the second year right here. And we have so many new patients or new people that are listening to the show that I just wanted them to kind of have an idea of what is this whole thing about? Why are you talking about all this? Where are you coming from with it? Why do you talk to us about all this? And so that's what tonight's show is going to be about. You guys that have been listening all year long, you've heard all these stories over and over, but I know that a lot of the new people might appreciate some of the history of what's going on. So we had a good show last night on the radio. We took health to church. We did a good job with that, I think, and I thought that was a pretty good show overall for all you guys that are listening to us on the radio. And then we did a short show on our social media pages last night about what happens when your expectation and your reality don't match. Because in Lubbock, Texas this week, everybody's fussing about the fact that our football team didn't play as good as they should have. And so it's kind of got everybody in an uproar, and it's kind of funny to look at what's happening with them all, making everybody just fussy, which is kind of fun. It's football season. What the heck? We'll just get fussy about stuff. But let's get into the show. Let's talk about, because we got a lot to cover tonight, and I want you guys to kind of know what's going on. So, where did this show come from? How did I get a radio show every night from 6 to 7 on Walk by Faith Radio? Well, during our pandemic, I was trying to keep my business alive. I was trying to take care of my patients. I was trying to take care of my family. And so I probably worked harder in 20 and 21 than I ever have. It was, you guys know what that was like. That was a tough year for 2 years for pretty much everybody on the planet. There was lots of challenging things that went on during that time. And so, but I kept my head down. I kept working. We competed. I was so proud of the way that we competed. Leslie competed. The kids competed. We worked. I spread out my schedule. I got everybody in the office. We only had 1 or 2 people in the office at a time during that time. And we had the mayor, the governor, and the president all telling the whole world to stay home. And it's really hard to do adjustments over the phone. So you can't do that. So we worked hard, and we made it. And I appreciate my patients that stuck with us during that time. I appreciate their desire to keep well. I appreciate the help we got from as many people out there that we could. But we kind of got towards the end of that thing, kind of got into 2021 a little bit. And, there was that big push for everybody to get vaccinated. And so it was like, okay, fine, you can do your thing. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine with me. But it's from a health and wellness standpoint, that's not something that we decided that we wanted to do in my family. And that's not something that we talk about in our office. We talk about health and wellness. And so, it got to the point to where in my town in Lubbock, our mayor would have a conference call almost every day or multiple times a week. I don't know exactly what, but he would have a conference call, and there was somebody over at one of the hospitals. I don't know if it was the CEO or some doctor over at the hospital. And he came on the radio on the conference call one day, and he said, He said, it's your duty as a West Texan to get vaccinated. And he said, you've unvaccinated people are keeping us vaccinated people hostage. Now, having 3 years, having 3 years of time to pass under our belts, we could kind of all look back and say, well, maybe those statements weren't true. And it's not exactly how it went down. And I knew it wasn't true because I've been studying that subject since my daughter was born, and she's 23 years old. Because that was the hardest decision I ever had to make in my entire life, was to make the decision whether or not she should get vaccinated or she shouldn't. And that was my own personal thing, right? So, but I didn't have a lot of science at the time to help me, and I didn't have a lot of people to turn to, and it's so bipolar, and everybody kind of gets on one side or the other, and it just makes everybody upset. So, but that was not a new concept to me. So I got to our mayor would have what he called coffee with the mayor. He'd meet at one of the local grocery stores, and um, he would visit with people and their concerns, and that was nice of him to do that. And so I went to one of those coffee with the mayors, and I stood up and I told everybody who I was, and my former life. I came to Lubbock, Texas, because I walked on the football team at Texas Tech. That's how I got to Lubbock. I was at Eastern New Mexico. Leslie and I were raised in Roswell, and I'll get to that story here in a bit. But I came to Lubbock and to play football. I came to go to school and play football at Texas Tech, and I walked on. I earned a scholarship. I was here for 4 years total, 3 years on scholarship, and had some success while I was here at Tech. And I thought I was going to be a college football coach. That really was going to be my life. That's why we reference football so often on our show, because it's a big part of my life. But I thought I was going to be a college football coach, and so I coached college football for 6 years. I coached 3 years at New Mexico State in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and then I came back and I coached 3 years at Texas Tech. And then Coach Dykes, our boss, retired, and the new coaching staff was led by Coach Mike Leach, and he didn't keep any of us, and we all lost our jobs. And so I ended up going to work in my brother-in-law's office, and I'll get to that in just a second. So I just stood up at this coffee with the mayor, and I said, hey, look, I just told everybody who I was. And when you introduce yourself as a former quarterback at Texas Tech in Lubbock, you kind of get some favor. Like, people are like, oh yeah, Jason, I remember you. Yeah. We enjoyed watching you play and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I remember who you are. And everybody was happy with me, for about 10 seconds. And then I just told them, I said, hey, look, this is unfair. What's going on? I said, I've stayed in my lane. I've done my job. I've tried to do everything I can to help my people be as healthy as possible. But now all of a sudden, you guys are making me out to be a bad guy. You're making me out to be a villain in my own town. And I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to do that. I'm not a villain. I'm a good guy. I run a business. I raise children. I take care of things. I'm a good citizen. And so I think this is getting too far. And so we had a little conversation. It didn't really go over all that great with the people that they'd already made up their decisions, and most of them didn't even know what they were talking about. So it was tough on them. But Victor Flores, who owns this radio station, 98.7 Walk by Faith, and Victor was there, and he came up to me as soon as the conversation was over, and he said, you need to be on the radio. And I didn't really go there. I wasn't trying to make a political statement. I was just trying to say, hey, listen, just back off a little bit. We're just overreacting to this situation. And you guys are telling one side of the story, but you're not telling both sides of the story, which the other side never got to be told. And we all know that there was actual purpose for that whole thing. Like, we actually know the government was involved in that, right? Zuckerberg said it last week at some in a letter, right? That there was. So we didn't get the full story, but I'm not trying to get into that tonight. I'm just trying to tell you how I got to the radio. So I ended up getting to go to the morning show, and I got on the morning show, and the next day, Ken Adams, who has the Thin Line with Ken Adams, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a Wellness Wednesday show every Wednesday. Would you like to come be the doctor and talk about wellness on the Wellness Wednesday show?" And so Victor and Letitia that own the Flores that own the radio station, they're the ones that allowed me to come be a part of their radio station, and I'm just so thankful for that. I really appreciate that, and I hope we've created a show for them that is helpful. That's helpful for our community. That's made maybe help some people be healthier, and that's why we wanted to do what we're doing. But I got to spend a year. I got to actually spend 2 years doing the Wellness Wednesday show with Ken on the Thin Line with Ken Adams. And then there was some changes at the radio station, and they gave me the opportunity to have my own show. And that's how we got to this deal. And I said, hey, I want to do it every night. I want to have an hour-long show. I want to be right after Pratt on Texas. And I just want to come to you guys, and I want to talk about health. So that part is how I got to the radio. And then we just finished our first year. And we and I don't know if Victor anytime will send me a text and say, Jason, thanks, but we're done with your show. It's like wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the case, because I'm not the best radio guy in the world, and we're not the best radio show in the world, but we got some pretty good stuff. And so if I can ever get myself to be a little bit more fun to listen to and keep your attention for a longer period of time, I think maybe we could actually help people be healthier. And I think maybe we have. I think maybe we've helped some of you guys out there to be healthier. But that's how I got on the radio. That's the story behind why we have this radio station. Well, let me back up a little bit, and I'll tell the story about why we have a social media page. And so when I was right before I was in fifth grade, we were living in Oklahoma City. My dad was a high school football coach. My mom was an elementary school teacher. I'm the oldest of three kids. And my uncle and aunt bought a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico. And we moved out there. My dad was going to be the manager of that horse ranch. And so all of a sudden, I'm a city kid living in Oklahoma City, and we were kind of country kids anyway, but because of where we grew up in East Texas and Oklahoma. But we were living in Del City, Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden we're living in a vet clinic in Roswell, New Mexico. It was crazy. But time went on, and I met when I was in the seventh grade. The first day of seventh grade, I met Leslie Tucker. Thank you, JT. I got a text right here that says I'm healthier, so amen. And you are, so good for you. But I met Leslie in seventh grade, and over the next couple of years, we developed a really close friendship. And in the 10th grade, I fell in love with that girl. And she was not interested. She was not interested in me at first. It took a little work. I had to convince her that I was a good guy, and that because she was not ready for a country boy. She was kind of interested in city boys at the time, and so it took a little while to get her on my side. But we finally started dating in the spring of our sophomore year in high school. And when we started dating, her sister Lori was married to a guy who was in chiropractic school, and so I got exposed, but through Leslie and through Lori, I got exposed to this idea of chiropractic a lot because my future brother-in-law was in chiropractic school. And then I was playing football in the 11th grade, and I was a junior, and we were undefeated. We went to Clovis, and they were our rival, and they beat the snot out of us that night. They beat us 16-0. And if you get beat anything to nothing, that means you didn't score a point, and you might not have ever scored a point. And I'm not sure if we'd have played in 50 more quarters, we'd have ever scored a point against them that night. They were stomping us. And not only mentally, but physically. And they separated my shoulder in the first quarter or the second quarter of that game. Well, the next morning, I go to the hospital, X-ray my shoulder. My shoulder's separated. My um, it was actually my left shoulder, but my coach said, "Hey, you need to go see Dr. Payne." He's a chiropractor in Roswell, and he was not a great human being, but he was a chiropractor, and so they said, "Hey, that you need to go see Dr. Payne." And I was like, "Okay." So I went to this chiropractic office at like 7 in the morning before school, and he asked me. He said, "Do you want to get adjusted?" And I was like, "I have no idea what that means." My dad had spinal arthritis. My mom's a school teacher. We didn't talk about health in my family. I never, like one time we had a conversation about chiropractic. But uh, other than that, I didn't know what that meant. And he laid me down and gave me an adjustment. And I thought it was fabulous. Like I really did. I was like, man, that was great. That was great. And I just remember being at ease that day. I just remember sleeping so well that night. After my very first adjustment when I was a junior in high school, it didn't fix my separated shoulder. He still did some ultrasound or electric stim or something on my shoulder to try to help speed up the healing. But I just remember it being so peaceful. I just remember sleeping so well. And so that kind of started me on this pathway that's a different pathway than a lot of people get put on. Um, I was a 4.0 student in high school. I was the president of my class in my junior year. I was the outstanding junior and senior boy of my class. I was the starting quarterback of the football team. I was an all-state and all-star quarterback. I had an appointment to the Air Force Academy when I was a senior in high school. I mean, I was a pretty good kid, and I could have very easily gone to medical school. I didn't choose chiropractic school because I couldn't get into medical school. I chose chiropractic school, I really, because it chose me. Like it's kind of a path. It's kind of a pathway that I just kind of like somehow got moved towards. And you guys that have any faith um, in Jesus Christ or have a believe in your Savior, you kind of know that sometimes the Lord just moves you in the position to where He wants you to be in. And I truly believe that's my life. That is how I got to be a chiropractor. And I didn't go directly into it because my freshman year in college, when I had the opportunity to declare a major, I remember standing outside my advisor's door in the hallway, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to be a chiropractor or am I going to be a football coach? And I just remember having a conversation with myself that day, and I was like, dude, what do you know about being a chiropractor? Absolutely nothing. Like I was what, 19 years old? This was the spring of 1990. Yep, I was 19 years old, and I was standing there, and I had to make this decision. And I just thought, you know a lot about football coaching. Your dad was a football coach. You've been in athletics your whole entire life. You know way more about coaching football than you do about chiropractic. Because I was like, so I remember I just closed down that chiropractic idea, and I went in that advisor's office and I told him I wanted to be a football coach. And he's like, "All right, well, here's what we'll do." And then the next year I transferred to Tech, and I was going to I got my exercise and sports science degree and a teaching degree. I was going to try to get a teaching degree in math, but and I was actually pretty good in math back in the day, and but. Uh, all of a sudden, I couldn't pass calculus. Hang on one second. Yeah, so I couldn't pass calculus, which I didn't realize was going to be that hard of a problem. And so I ended up being a history teacher, not a teacher. I got my degree in history. So I got my degree in exercise and sports science with a teaching field of history. And I decided I didn't want to be a high school coach. I just wanted to be a college coach. And so I did that for 6 years. But I just had this burning thing that just kept showing up over and over during that 6 year period of time. There was just this idea. It was just like, you should be a chiropractor. And so I thought about it. I looked into it. At one point, I even sent off to Parker College, which is now Parker University in Dallas, and I actually got the admissions package, and they sent that to me. And I sat there and I looked at that admissions package, and it was just me and the mirror and the admissions package. And I remember looking at that, thinking to myself, dude, there's no way you could pass those classes. Like there's like biochemistry and neuroanatomy and gross anatomy and all those. I just like I got so scared. I was really I just I had no confidence that I could do that. I don't know why. I tried to stay away from as much science as I possibly could while I was in getting my degree and I'm working on my master's at this time in sports administration. So I just decided, I said, you know what? I remember closing the folder, putting the folder in the top drawer of my dresser and just moving on down the road. And so there was 3 or 4 times in there that I was moving along trying to decide what I was going to do with myself. And then, um, and then Coach Dykes retires and I don't have a job. And my brother-in-law, he said to me, he was practicing, he'd graduated and he was practicing here in Lubbock. And he said, hey, why don't you come work for me? And I looked at him and I said, Rick, you're the weirdest human being that I've ever met. Like, I don't understand. Like, you tell me one leg's longer than the other. Like, you don't take a Tylenol when you get a headache. You don't vaccinate your kids. Like you're so strange. Like, I don't get it. Well, he offered me a job that I could not refuse. And so I went to work in his office and I told him, I said, look, I'll work here during the spring because I'd already missed that hiring window that happens at the end of every football season. And I said, I'll work for you for the spring and the summer, but as soon as after the fall happens, I'm going to try to get another coaching job. And he was like, okay. And I went to work in his office and he did a half hour to health class with all of his new patients. And he would take this little spine model right here and he would take a pair of scissors and he would ask the patients, he'd say, would you let me take a pair of scissors and cut the nerve that goes from your brain to your heart? And I was sitting back over there behind his desk and I was thinking to myself, there's a nerve that goes from your brain to your heart? Like, what is that? What? I thought your heart was your cardiovascular system that pumped blood throughout your body, took oxygen to all your tissues. I thought that's what your heart did. And so when I got finished, I asked him, I said, Rick, what are you talking about? Because he said that there was a study done at the University of Colorado that a dime's weight of pressure on a spinal nerve root would decrease the amount of energy flowing through that nerve by 40%. And so I was like, what are you saying? There's a nerve that goes from my brain to my heart? And he was like, yes. And I said, you're saying to me that if there's a dime's weight of pressure, if there's some sort of bend or twist or turn or something like that puts pressure on that nerve, that it might decrease the amount of energy flowing through that nerve to my heart by 40%, or maybe from my heart to my brain by 40%? And he was like, yep. And all of a sudden, it was 12 years. It was 12 years of getting adjusted. It was 12 years of listening to this crazy talk. It was 12 years before the time I separated my shoulder in that football game against Clovis until that night. And that night, it was an aha moment. It was like in 1 second, after 12 years, in 1 second, all of a sudden, I understood chiropractic. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what a chiropractic is. That's what it is right there. And I said, you've got pressure in your nervous system and then your body's not working right. And that's basically what we call a subluxation. So I said, Rick, why didn't you teach me this? And he said, well, I thought you knew. And I was like, well, what class would I have taken that where I would have learned that? And I remember every single time that I have told that story right there, every single time that I've told that story, in the back of my mind, since I learned that story, and since I got my chiropractic license, and I'm in my 20th year of seeing patients, since I got my chiropractic license, every single time I've told that story, in the back of my mind, I thought to myself, um, why aren't you telling people about that? Why aren't you telling people what a subluxation is? Why aren't you telling the world what a subluxation is? And so when I got the opportunity to do this radio show, I knew a long time ago. I knew from the first day I was had my chiropractic license. I knew from the very first day that that's what I was going to do. I was going to teach people what a subluxation was on the very first day, and we do that in our office. We try to teach people about subluxation in our office. And sometimes we try too hard, I think, but that's something that's part of our experience at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, is trying to learn what a subluxation is. And so we're right up against a break. So we're going to take a break here on the radio, and then we'll be back right after the break, and we'll get into that subluxation, because I want you to know what it is. It is the foundational premise of what I do for a living, and it's the reason that we do this show right now. So we're going to just try. We're going to take a break. You guys stick around with us. We'll be right back right after these messages on the radio, and then we'll get into this subluxation thing and see if we can really make it clear about it as we're starting our second year right here on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio. I appreciate it. Okay, and for you guys that are new, that in the new of the listening area, or you're new to our show, so we run about a 26-minute segment at the beginning of the show on the radio, and then we got to take about a 2-minute break right here. Let me see what we got. Yeah, just about a 2-minute break, and so during the break, I like to just catch us up on what's going on. You guys that are on social media are watching a different show than what the people that are listening to the radio are listening to. I mean, right now they're listening to commercials. And so they're listening to commercials, but we stay live because I haven't figured out how to make commercials. But maybe in this second year, I will figure out how to make commercials. So we have a text line, 806, as you can see on the screen, 806-794-0400. That's my phone right here. You can text us. I'll try to answer anything on the text. And then if you have a comment that you would like to leave in the chat, or if you're watching us on some social media and you would like to make a comment, then that'd be great as well. And I'll try to get to you as quickly as possible to try to answer any of those comments that you leave or questions that you leave on the show. And if you have anything that you would like to talk about, there's so much in health that we could talk about, and I probably talk about the same things over and over because maybe that's what I know about, but there's so many things that are in health and wellness that we could talk about that maybe sometimes I don't think about. So if you've got something on your mind that you would like me to share or talk about, then just send me a message. You can text me. You send me a text and say, "Hey, Dr. Clemmons, would you talk about this sometime?" And then I'll put together a show and we'll talk about it. And if you've got some comments or questions about something, or if I say something and you don't really understand it, then please feel free to let me know what's happening. And you guys in Littlefield, you guys that are new, you guys are watching this on our Littlefield channel. The same thing. If you got some questions, we were over there today. We see patients over there on Tuesdays. And so let me get us back going here. All right, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are coming to you live, just like always, on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio. We're live on our social media, and we are kicking off the second year of Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. So we're trying to get everybody caught up, all the new people that might be new to the show. We're just trying to get you caught up on some background stuff so that you can feel better about what we're doing. You can kind of understand a little bit better about what's going on with our show. And so that is what we're talking about tonight. So I left off at the idea of the subluxation. And the subluxation it's controversial in chiropractic. The matter of fact, so many modern day chiropractors don't even want to talk about it because the medical world doesn't use that word in the same way that we use that word, and so they think we need to be more get along better with the medical world, and I particularly don't think that. Not because I don't want to get along with the medical world, because I've got great relationships with doctors and physical therapists and nurses and all those sort of things. By no means I'm not trying to get along with anybody, but we just do different things. We're just in two different fields. We look at the body in different ways. We have different languages. We have different concepts. We have different ways that we go about addressing interference. It's just two different things. So I don't have any reason to change and to not being inflexible, but just simply saying that, look, like there's a foundational premise of what this whole thing is built on, and it's built on the idea that you have an innate intelligence. The very first thing that they teach us, the very first thing teach us on the first day of chiropractic school is you have an innate intelligence. There is a universal intelligence which gives to all matter its properties, thus maintaining it in existence. I'll say it again. There is a universal intelligence that gives to all matter its properties, thus maintaining it in existence. This little model that I have in my hand is made out of plastic. And this battery is got some sort of metal on it. And this paper is some sort of wood product or something, right? All those things are just made up of the elements on the periodic table. Like it's just carbon and oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen and all those sort of things. But the way that the carbon and the oxygen and the nitrogen and all of it is put together over here, it makes metal. But the way that those same molecules are put together over here, and within the molecules on the periodic table, you get plastic. But then the way that they're put together over here, you get paper. And what that universal intelligence means, and to me it means God. God put the order into the universe. God said in the first 6 days, this is the way it's going to be. And it set an order to the universe that here's the way things work. There's an intelligence. There's an intelligence in this plastic. If God didn't exist, the plastic would it wouldn't be together. There would be no metal in this battery. There would be nothing. Like it just would be nothing, right? So that's the story I'm going with. I'm going with that there's a universal intelligence. And so what God did is he gave a little piece of us. He gave a spirit to our flesh. He gave a piece of himself. He gave a piece of that universal intelligence, and we call it innate intelligence. Innate intelligence is the intelligence that takes a sperm cell and an egg cell and combines those two cells to become one cell. And then innate intelligence takes that one cell and it divides it for 13 days. It goes from 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells to 16 cells to 32 cells, right? There's a division every single day for 12 days. And then for 12 days, it divides. And then on day 13, it starts to differentiate. One cell becomes a bone cell, one cell becomes a muscle cell, and one cell becomes a fat cell. And the skin on the little embryo rolls over on itself, and then your spinal cord is made. And so you have this innate intelligence that knows how to grow a human being. Think about it. Did you know that your hands are webbed when you're in the womb? Your hands grow in this like little club thing, and then your bones grow, and then your fingers grow, and then this little enzyme comes along and it just zips all the skin off of your fingers. and then now you have 5 individual fingers. Most of us do, unless something went wrong in that process. But most of us have 5 individual fingers that instead of one big club hand, because innate intelligence just knew how to do that. Well, when you were born, no one taught you how to breathe. When you were born, no one taught you how to see. When you were born, no one taught you how to digest your food. You just knew how. You just knew how to do that. You just knew how to sleep. You just knew how to wake up. You just knew how to roll over eventually. You just learned. You had an innate intelligence. And what I learned is that innate intelligence is 100% perfect 100% of the time. The Spirit of God inside our body is never wrong. So the fundamental principle is that you have an innate intelligence that's running your flesh. And I have this sentence that I say that your flesh is the canvas that your spirit uses to paint the picture of you. And I don't know if I heard that or if that's original, but that's really what I believe. I believe that your spirit is trying to express itself through the flesh. And sometimes we put ourselves in an environment that messes up the communication between the spirit and the flesh. We mess up the energy inside the body. There's energy that just flows from the body to the brain. I have it kind of illustrated here. That is, I got my little spine model, and you've got energy that's traveling from your body to your brain, and we call that energy afferent pathways. Energy that goes from your body to your brain. And you can realize that you wherever you are right now, you know that you're sitting down. Like I can feel the back of my thigh on this little stool. I can feel my toes bent, and because it's on the railing of this little stool, I can feel the way that my foot is bent. I don't have to look down to know it. I just know that that's happening. There's nerves in my body, and those nerves are carrying impulses to my brain. I'm looking at this iPad that I use as a camera. I can see these lights. I can feel the temperature in this room. All of that sensory information is coming in, and it's going into my brain. And my brain is processing all that information. And some people say that that's 3 trillion bits of information per second. I don't really know, because I don't know how you figure that. I don't know how you map that out. But there's a lot of data. Like right now, your liver and your brain are talking to each other. And right now, your spleen, you didn't know that, right? The estimate is about 95% of brain function is subconscious. You didn't know you were talking to your liver, and you didn't know that you were talking to your stomach, and you didn't know that your brain just told your stomach to make more stomach acid or stop making stomach acid. And you didn't know that your brain just told your small intestine to do something, right? And your brain, you didn't know that your brain was communicating with your bones, and your bones are making new cells, and you're making new bones, and there's a lot of stuff going on, right? There's just a lot of stuff happening inside your nervous system. And so we've got this constant flow of energy flowing from the body to the brain, and we've got this constant flow of energy flowing from the brain back down to the body, because as soon as my brain processes that information, it's going to set my body back in order. It's going to say, you know what? I don't like the way your foot is on that bar on this stool. Move your foot. It's getting irritating. It's like, that doesn't feel good. It's starting to irritate the knuckles in my toes because of the way that my foot is bent. And so my body says, move, put your heel on it instead. And when you do that, when you go to put your heel on it, back your head up a little bit so that your center of gravity stays in the middle of the chair so you don't fall off the chair. Like I'll move my foot and then I'll move myself around. And that, like, all that's happening, right? So we've got input into the body, and then we've got brain to body output, brain to the body. We call those efferent nerves. It doesn't matter what we call them, but they just have a nerve so that we can study them, so we can say, hey, look, some of the information is going in and some of the information is going out. And if there's interference if there's some sort of disruption in the nervous system, if there's some sort of interference between the brain and the body, then the body's going to malfunction because the body doesn't have a brain. What runs the body? What makes the body move? Do I have some sort of brain inside my finger that makes my finger move? Or is my brain inside my head? My brain's inside my head. Just in case you didn't know the answer to that, right? Just in case you didn't realize that. But that's how it works. There's not a brain in my finger. There's not a brain in my wrist. There's not a brain in my elbow. The brain is in my head. And the communication between my brain and my body is vital for my body to function the way it's supposed to. So interference between the brain and the body in our world is called a subluxation. Any place in any way, that's what we call a subluxation. That's what I call a subluxation. The old time chiropractors, which I'm kind of getting to be. I'm getting to be one of those old time chiropractors. But I'm one of those guys that believes that concept. I believe the concept that I have an innate intelligence that's 100% perfect 100% of the time, and that if I put my cells in an environment that's congruent with health, then my body will express health. And we actually looked up congruent. Remember, we just had this conversation a week or so ago. Congruent means similar to or in agreement with something. If I put my cells in an environment, if I eat well, move well, think well, as Dr. Chestnut says, if I do one of those, if I put myself in an environment, and what I mean by that is when I say if I put myself in an environment that's congruent with health, what I'm saying is if I follow the physiology, the biology, the neurology that goes along with health, my body should express health. Like the cells are designed that way. So if I put myself in an agreement with something that's healthy, my body should express health. I believe that. If I put myself in an environment that's congruent with health, I should express health. If I put myself in an environment that's incongruent with health, what my body is going to do is it's going to create symptoms as a feedback mechanism to let me know that I'm not congruent with health. It's just that simple. And I think it happens with you too. I think you do the same thing. So I think you put your body in an environment that's either congruent or incongruent with health. And I think what you get from that is the result of that. You either get health or you get some sort of malfunction of health. You get some sort of interference with health. You get some sort of symptom. And we're taught from the time we're little kids that symptoms are bad. That from the very jump, we're taught that symptoms are bad. And tonight I'm not going to get into it. Why? I'm not going to get into why that, but that's a definite there's a definite reason that's what we're taught, and that comes from the pharmaceutical industry. Well, before the pharmaceutical industry came along, fevers weren't something that everybody just tried to get rid of immediately. You didn't get rid of it. You had a fever, you just went and laid down. You just got over your fever. But all of a sudden now, if you have a fever for 5 minutes, you're freaking out. You got to go take a Tylenol or something. And there's a design for that. But I'm not. This is not a show about that. This is simply saying that, look, I think that there is a way that we could run our bodies that keeps our body healthy. For what? What difference does it make if we keep our bodies healthy? And that's a big question to ask. It really is. It's a big question to ask. How much health do you need? How healthy should you be? What difference does it make if you're healthier? Those are questions that really need to be answered before you decide to try to get healthier. Because if you don't, what I have found is that we'll just sabotage it. We'll just sabotage it. And it'll be one of those things where it's just like, Well, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing it. What difference does it make if I do it? What difference does it make if I get any sleep tonight? What difference does it make if I stay up till 2 o'clock? I gotta be at work at 7:30 in the morning. I start with patients at 7:30 in the morning, and I've got a conference that Thursday and Friday, and so tomorrow's going to be a busy day at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and I've got to get here. I'll be here at 7:15 or whatever. Brooke will get here, open it up, get us ready to go, and then we'll get started. And so, what difference does it make if I stay up till 2 o'clock tonight? Just looking at my phone. What if I just wanted to look at YouTube until 2 o'clock? Like just run through reels, and then I'm just going to sleep for 4 hours, and then I'm going to get up, take a shower, and then I come to work. Do you think tomorrow I might function at a lower level than I would have if I got 7 or 8 hours of sleep tonight? I think so. I think there's enough science behind that. There's enough studies behind that that says yes, that's very important for me to get my sleep. What about supper tonight? What are we going to eat tonight? What about exercise today? Leslie and I went on a 45-minute walk this morning. We walked for, I don't know how, it wasn't 45 minutes, it was 35 minutes. It was 2 miles. And we went on a walk this morning. It was beautiful. It was 64 degrees. It was nice and cool. We had some rain last night. It was just great. It was a great walk that we went on this morning. So we got some exercise. We've got some nutrition. We've got some sleep. Where we have a reason to be healthy. And if you have a reason to be healthy, then being healthy is important. If you don't have a reason to be healthy, then being healthy isn't important. And what typically happens is it pushes us down the road. We just push it down the road. We'll just say tomorrow. You know, I've already run my diet for today. I think I'll just wait till tomorrow. Never mind, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is Wednesday. I'll just wait till next Monday. That's what I'll do. I'll just wait till next Monday to get started on this healthy thing, right? We do that. We know that. And so we don't have any reason to be healthy, and we'll push it down the road, and then we'll push it down the road, and then we'll push it down the road, and then what will end up happening is we'll come up against something that's major. We'll get a diagnosis. We'll have heart disease or cancer or a stroke or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or breast cancer or something, right? Then all of a sudden, you know what we'll do? You know what you do when you get that diagnosis? What I have experienced so far in my 53 years of life, I have experienced people that go and get diagnosed with some sort of major problem that all of a sudden get very serious about their health. They want to know serious stuff. How do I fix this problem? I've got a major problem. I've got heart disease. I've got cancer. I've got diabetes. I've got Parkinson's. I've got Alzheimer's. Whatever my thing is. How do I fix this? And then they'll start studying health, because now all of a sudden they're wise. They don't want to die. They're wise. They realize it's scared the crap out of them. And now all of a sudden they just they're like, ooh, maybe I should do something about this. So I think you get a why one way or the other. You either get it forced upon you, or you stop for a second and you develop your own reason why you want to be healthy. And then once you determine why you want to be healthy, then you start working on being healthy. And that's what we're trying to do on this show. That's what I've been doing for 24 years now. March of 2000, I went to work for my brother-in-law. That's when I learned what a subluxation was. And so a subluxation means interference in your nervous system. And so the first question I had when I became a chiropractor is, if my job is to detect and correct subluxations, if my job is to try to figure out where do you have interference in your nervous system, then one of the first questions I had is, what causes a subluxation? What is the cause? Why do you get a Diamond's weight of pressure on a spinal nerve root? What is it that causes disruption in the body? What is it? And the old timers used to say, the guys that created chiropractic in 1895, that's when D.D. Palmer discovered chiropractic. But they've been working on nervous system stuff. Hippocrates, 2,000 something years ago, said, look well to the spine for the cause of disease, apparently. Someone said he said that. I don't know if they had a tape recorder or how they knew that, but somebody said he said that. It's the nervous system has been important for a very long time. But the the interference, what the old guys used to say, is toxins, trauma, and autosuggestion. Well, it's kind of, we don't really say autosuggestion very much anymore. But what we say is physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. Physical, chemical, and mental emotional. Physically, are you putting your body in an environment that's congruent with health? Are you sitting at a desk? I talked to a 25-year-old today that got him a job, went to college, got him a job. Now he's sitting at a desk, and all of a sudden his arm is going numb. Yep, because it's not natural to sit at a desk. It's a physical stressor on the body that the body cannot adapt to. And when it can't adapt, that's what the body's trying to do. Is what you have is, this is a big term, unadapted physiology. Unadapted physiology is basically the state that your body goes in whenever you have symptoms. You tried to adapt to your environment, you couldn't adapt to your environment, and now all of a sudden your body is unadapted to the environment, and it's creating some sort of physiology, some sort of attempt to adapt that it just can't do, and you get a muscle spasm. You'll get that stiffness. You'll get pressure on the nerve, and it runs down the arm. You'll get something to that effect, right? That's a physical stress. I got in a car wreck. I flipped a four-wheeler. I got bucked off a horse. I sat at a desk. I got tackled. One of my guys sprained his ankle this week. Those are physical traumas, and everybody gets that pretty much, right? Like we pretty much all know. We're pretty much got that one figured out. That man, I drove to Dallas and back, and now my hips are all jacked up. My SI joint is all flared up or something like that, right? That's a physical stress. A chemical stress is more complicated because we don't quite get it. A chemical stress is paint thinners, insecticides, pesticides, cleaning materials, inks, glues, partially hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, and sweeteners. Yeah, like omega-6 fatty acids, too many of them, an imbalance, right? Those are chemical stresses. Things that we put in our body, processed foods, refined carbohydrates. Those are chemical stresses. The air that we breathe, the things that we drink, those are all chemical stresses, and they have an effect on the body. They cause the body to malfunction. They cause the subluxation. And physical, chemical, and now mental, emotional stresses. There are so many people stressed out in Lubbock, Texas today because our defense didn't play very good, and we won the game at 52-51 in overtime against Abilene Christian. And so we got everybody subluxated because they're all stressed out because we didn't do as good as they expected us to do. Right? It's like, yeah, you're stressed out about things at home. You're stressed out about your marriage. You're stressed out about the election. You're stressed out about your kids. You're stressed out about your job. You're stressed out about whether or not you're doing the right thing. You're stressed out about whether or not you're going to make it through the month. You're stressed out about the 10 pounds that you're overweight or the 50 pounds that you're overweight. You're stressed out because your clothes don't fit properly. There's a lot of things that we get stressed out about, right? And there's a physiology, there's a neurology, there's an attempt to adapt. And over this last year, that's what we've talked about. That's what we've really broken down, and that's what we're going to do for this next year. Whether as long as Victor doesn't kick us off the radio, we're going to keep it right here on the radio at 98.7. But we're also going to keep our show because I think it's important. It is my why. It is my reason. I don't have anything better to do between 6 and 7 Monday through Friday, but come here and visit with you guys about health. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to detect and correct subluxation. Everything that I talk about is just about that. It's about the physical, chemical, and mental emotional stresses that cause the interference in our system, that cause our body to malfunction in a way that takes away from our why. That's my ideal. And that's what this show is about. So you guys that are new, thank you for listening to the show. You guys that are not new, that have endured an entire year of this so far, God bless you. And thank you too. I really appreciate you guys. And you guys that are new to the office, that you've listened to the show and you said, hey, I want to come be a patient at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. Thank you too. And I hope in this second year that we can do a better job. Number one, that's my goal. Number two, that we can continue to bring you true health and wellness information, true health and wellness education, and see that I can share as much about health and wellness as I can to you to help you and your families. So thanks for letting me do another kickoff show for another year. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great night. If there's anything I could do, send me a text, 806-794-0400. And otherwise, you guys have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6, ready to rock and roll. You guys have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow.